You know what gets me fired up? It's this unspoken rule that once you hit a certain age, you're supposed to shut the hell up about your body, about your desires, about anything that makes you feel alive, especially if it has to do with sex. Especially if it has to do with a penis. People look uncomfortable. They want to change the subject. They pretend that aging means your humanity is supposed to fade quietly into the background, and I call BS. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about that unfinished sentence, the one everyone hears and fills in with fear or shame. Masturbating in old age makes your penis. What, shrivel, explode, magically erase all signs of mortality? People whisper the word masturbation like it's some scandalous secret, and when we add aging into the mix, oh no, now we've committed some kind of moral felony. Like older people aren't supposed to be sexual. Like it's shameful to still want to feel something. Let me tell you something, and I need you to hear this loud and clear. There is no expiration date on pleasure. There is no time limit on intimacy. There is no age where you stop deserving to feel good in your own skin. Masturbating in old age doesn't make your penis less of anything. It makes it more yours, more alive. More connected to the person you've always been underneath the layers of time, responsibility, heartbreak, trauma, boredom, fatigue, and all the damn noise life throws at you. See, we don't talk about this because people are uncomfortable with the idea that sexuality doesn't disappear just because your hair goes gray or your body changes. But it doesn't. Your sexual self isn't a phase, it's a lifelong part of who you are. And if you're still exploring that at 60, 70, 80, that is not only okay, it's amazing, it's powerful, it's liberating, because you are taking control, you're choosing to stay in touch with a part of yourself that society keeps trying to silence. And let's get real from a health perspective, masturbation in older age is not only normal, it's beneficial. You want better blood flow, you want to keep your prostate healthy, you want to sleep better, feel better, move better. You want to release natural endorphins instead of popping another damn pill for everything. You know what to do. Your body is not a machine that breaks and gets discarded. It's something you maintain. And guess what? Sexual activity, including masturbation, is maintenance. It's literally good for your health. It's like exercise, hydration, and meditation rolled into one ridiculously enjoyable experience. But this isn't just about biology or hormones or keeping parts working. This is about identity. This is about staying whole. It's about refusing to let the world tell you that your value drops as your age rises. It's about refusing to disappear, because every time you touch your body with care, with attention, with curiosity, you're reminding yourself, I still exist, I still matter, I still get to feel good. And there is power in that, and maybe you're thinking, well, it's been a long time, or that part of my life is over. But I want you to know that voice in your head telling you it's too late, that voice is a liar. You are never too old to rediscover yourself, to reconnect with your own body, to choose joy, pleasure, and presence over numbness, detachment, and shame. You think this is about sex. It's not. It's about freedom. Freedom from the rules that were never yours to begin with. Freedom from the fear that aging makes you invisible. Freedom from the myth that pleasure is reserved for the young and reckless. You are still here. That alone is a miracle. You've been through things, you've lost people. You've overcome crap most people couldn't even carry for 5 minutes. And through it all, your body has carried you. So if you still want to feel pleasure, hell yes. If you still want to touch yourself, hell yes. If you still want to wake up and feel desire, even if it's just for 5 minutes of peace and pleasure before the day begins, hell yes, you are not gross. You are not broken. You are not dirty or pathetic or weird. You are human, you are alive, and you are allowed. Masturbating in old age does not make your penis irrelevant. It makes it real again, yours again. A part of your body, not a symbol of something that's gone. And maybe, just maybe, it's time we stop treating aging like a curse and start treating it like what it actually is, a damn privilege. You made it. You're here, you've still got time. Don't waste it living by someone else's rules about who you're allowed to be. Because the people who will try to shame you, the ones who squirm when you talk about sex in your 60s or 70s or 80s. That's their discomfort, not yours, their fear, their internalized beliefs. Let them carry it, not you. You've carried enough. So here's the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Masturbating in old age doesn't make your penis a punchline. It makes it a protest, a rebellion, a love letter to yourself. It says, I'm still here, I still get to feel, I still get to be me, and that's powerful, that's real, that's something nobody gets to take away. Not time, not shame, not age, not anyone. You are not done. You are just getting started. There is no expiration date on pleasure. That's the truth we've been avoiding, the conversation we keep sweeping under the rug, and the belief we've been conditioned to abandon as we age. From a young age, we're subtly and not so subtly taught that sexuality belongs to the young. Desire, curiosity, and physical intimacy are painted as the playground of youth. Once the wrinkles show, once the body starts changing in ways we didn't choose, once the labels like middle-aged, senior, or retired start following us into rooms, society starts pushing a dangerous lie. That pleasure no longer belongs to us. But pleasure is not about youth. It is not owned by smooth skin, tight abs, or hormonal peaks. It is not dependent on anyone else's validation. Pleasure is a deeply personal, deeply human experience, and it's one that evolves with us. It changes, yes. The way you experience it in your 20s is different than in your 50s or 70s, just like everything else in life. But different doesn't mean diminished. Different doesn't mean gone. In fact, the ability to access and enjoy pleasure in later life often comes with more depth, more self-awareness, and more freedom than it ever did when we were younger and too busy worrying about what everyone else thought. As people age, many begin to feel invisible. They're talked over, underestimated, or avoided altogether when it comes to conversations around sensuality and desire. And yet, pleasure doesn't suddenly stop knocking at your door because of a number on a calendar. If anything, it often becomes more meaningful. With age comes the shedding of insecurities that once dominated the way we viewed our bodies. The pressure to perform, impress, or conform begins to quiet down. What emerges in its place is the possibility for a connection to yourself that's more honest, more grounded, and more attuned to what actually feels good, not what's supposed to. Pleasure, particularly self-pleasure, becomes not only a source of joy but a form of self-respect. It becomes a way to maintain agency over your body. In a world that constantly tries to tell you who you're allowed to be, especially as you get older, choosing to pursue what feels good, what lights you up from the inside out, is an act of rebellion. It's a way of saying, I'm still here, I still matter, I still get to feel. That's not a luxury, that's a right. And it's not dependent on your age, your health, your mobility, or your relationship status. It's also worth recognizing that pleasure doesn't have to look like it used to. Aging changes things, sometimes subtly, sometimes dramatically. Sensations shift, energy fluctuates, and certain parts of your body might not respond in the same way. But that doesn't mean the experience is lesser. It means it's an invitation to explore new ways of feeling, new pathways, new rhythms. It becomes an act of curiosity rather than routine, and that curiosity, especially when directed inward, is powerful. When you give yourself permission to explore what you enjoy, even as your body evolves, you are practicing a form of self-love that is often far more intentional than anything you experienced when you were younger. This is why the narrative that pleasure is only for the young is not just inaccurate, it's harmful. It strips people of their agency. It tells them to stop seeking, to stop desiring, to stop feeling. And when we stop feeling, we start disappearing. That is the real tragedy, not wrinkles, not gray hair, not slower responses, but the internalized belief that the best parts of being alive are behind you. Pleasure says otherwise. It says you're still alive. It says your body still speaks, still listens, still deserves to be touched with care and reverence. There's also this idea floating around that people should grow out of pleasure, like it's some adolescent behavior we're supposed to mature beyond. That idea is rooted in shame, in control, in outdated norms, but those norms were never written with your joy in mind. They were written to keep things in line, to keep people small and silent. They certainly weren't written with aging, empowered adults in mind. The truth is, pleasure is not something you grow out of. It's something you grow into. You learn how to appreciate it more, how to slow down, how to listen to what your body is asking for. And when you learn to give yourself that kind of attention, you begin to understand that pleasure isn't an escape from life. It's an embrace of it. Pleasure is not a gift given to you by youth. It's not dependent on someone else finding you attractive or validating your worth. It's not something you have to earn. It's yours. It always has been. The challenge is not in rediscovering it. It's in remembering that you never lost it in the first place. Masturbation in old age supports physical and mental health. That's a fact grounded in science, not speculation. It's something that too many people ignore because of cultural shame, outdated beliefs, and the persistent idea that sexual activity, especially solo sexual activity, is somehow inappropriate once you've crossed a certain age threshold. But the truth is, the human body doesn't just stop needing stimulation, connection, or release because it's aged. If anything, those needs become more important as the years go on, not less. And yet, so many people are taught to disconnect from that part of themselves, to pretend it no longer matters, or worse, that it's somehow wrong to care. That disconnection has real consequences, physical ones, emotional ones, psychological ones. Masturbation isn't just about pleasure or release, it's about maintenance, regulation, and wellness. Biologically, the act of self-stimulation helps promote blood flow to the genitals, which is critical for erectile health in men and genital sensitivity in women. When blood circulates properly in those areas, it helps keep the tissues oxygenated and functioning. This matters because as people age, changes in circulation and hormone levels can naturally impact arousal and performance. Regular stimulation, whether with a partner or solo, can help preserve function and sensation over time. In simple terms, use it or lose it is not just a casual phrase. It's a reflection of how the body works. For men specifically, regular ejaculation may be linked to better prostate health. There are studies suggesting that frequent ejaculation across the lifespan can reduce the risk of developing prostate cancer. While this doesn't make masturbation a guaranteed prevention tool, it does show that sexual activity plays a role in the overall health of reproductive organs. That alone should be reason enough to take the shame out of this conversation and start treating masturbation like we do any other form of self-care. It's no different than stretching, walking, or drinking water. It's something your body can benefit from when practiced regularly and without guilt. Beyond the physical, the mental health benefits of masturbation are just as important. Orgasm releases endorphins, dopamine, and oxytocin, natural chemicals that help reduce stress, lift your mood, and create a sense of well-being. In a stage of life where many people experience increased stress from caregiving, retirement, loneliness, or health concerns, those natural mood boosters can make a real difference. Masturbation can improve sleep, reduce anxiety, and help people feel more connected to their bodies in a world that often treats aging bodies as irrelevant or invisible. There's also an important emotional layer to this. As people age, touch often becomes less frequent. Partners pass away, relationships shift, family and social dynamics change. The human need for touch, for intimacy, for physical presence doesn't go away. In fact, it can grow stronger in its absence. Masturbation becomes a way to stay in contact with yourself, to remind your body that it still matters, that it still has the capacity to feel good, to respond, to receive. That sense of self-connection can help stave off feelings of isolation or neglect that so often accompany later stages of life. Masturbation also contributes to a sense of autonomy. As people age, they often feel like they're losing control over their schedules, their bodies, their roles in society. Being able to choose when and how to engage with your body in a way that brings comfort, pleasure, and relief is a deeply empowering thing. It reaffirms that your body still belongs to you and that you still have a say in how it's treated and experienced. That sense of ownership is critical for maintaining mental and emotional balance, especially when other parts of life feel uncertain or outside your control. Another important aspect is how masturbation allows people to stay sexually curious and aware, even when partnered sexual activity may decrease or stop altogether. Health issues, medications, or mobility changes can affect how sex happens in older relationships. But that doesn't mean sexuality disappears. Masturbation allows people to explore what feels good without pressure, to stay tuned in to their desires, and to communicate those desires with a partner if they choose to. It removes the expectations and potential stress of partnered sex and replaces them with agency and self-knowledge. For people who are single or widowed, masturbation becomes an essential way to stay connected to sexuality without needing external validation or permission. It reinforces the idea that sexual well-being is not dependent on someone else's presence. It exists within you, and it is entirely yours to nurture, enjoy, and honor on your own terms. This matters because the loss of a partner can leave not only emotional gaps but also physical ones. And having a safe, healthy way to continue experiencing pleasure can be a key part of the healing process. When viewed without the weight of shame, masturbation in old age is clearly more than a habit or indulgence. It's a tool, it's a resource, it's a form of care that supports physical resilience, emotional grounding, and mental clarity. Sexuality is a lifelong part of identity, not a phase. It isn't something that shows up in your teenage years and then fades away once you hit a certain age. It's not a trend, a season, or a passing state of mind. It's a core component of being human, something that lives within you from the beginning to the end, even if it changes form, rhythm, or expression over time. The problem is, society doesn't talk about it that way. We're taught to associate sexuality with youth, performance, reproduction, and aesthetics. It becomes about looking a certain way, acting a certain way, attracting others a certain way. And because of that narrow framing, the moment someone ages out of that mold, they're treated like their sexuality has expired. They're expected to shut it down, to stop feeling, to stop expressing, to stop wanting. That mindset is both incorrect and damaging. Sexuality at its core is not about performance or appearance. It's about connection. Connection to yourself, to your desires, to your body, to other people, to the feeling of being alive. That connection doesn't just turn off because your skin changes, your energy shifts, or your body moves differently. In fact, for many people, that connection deepens as they age. With life experience comes emotional maturity, a better understanding of your needs, and the ability to communicate boundaries and desires without shame or hesitation. That growth allows for a type of sexuality that is grounded, authentic, and nourishing in ways that youthful sexuality rarely achieves. For those who identify with a particular sexual orientation, gender identity, or preference, that part of identity doesn't dissolve with time. It remains present even if the way it's expressed evolves. An older gay man is still a gay man. An older woman who enjoys intimacy is still entitled to experience it. An older person exploring their gender or reclaiming their sexual autonomy is still valid. These identities do not expire, yet too often, older adults feel pressure to downplay or hide this part of themselves. They're told that it's inappropriate to talk about sex, that desire is immature, that their interest in intimacy is something to be embarrassed about. These messages can lead people to silence themselves, to withdraw, to pretend they no longer care, when in fact they care deeply and simply want the space to be who they are without judgment. Sexuality is also interwoven with self-image and self-worth. It informs how we see ourselves, how we carry ourselves, and how we relate to others. When someone is cut off from their sexual identity because of ageism or societal pressure, it can create a profound sense of loss and disconnection. They may begin to feel invisible, not just sexually, but socially and emotionally. Reclaiming that identity, even privately, becomes a form of resistance, a statement that they still matter, that they still belong to themselves. That kind of ownership can be incredibly healing, especially in a world that often tells older people they should simply fade into the background. It's important to understand that sexuality is not just about sex. It encompasses sensuality, touch, energy, attention, affection, longing, fantasy, and connection. It can be expressed in countless ways, from physical intimacy to emotional closeness to the simple act of feeling at home in your body. As people age, the way they engage with sexuality may shift. That doesn't mean the essence of that sexuality is gone. It just means they're learning new ways to express it. Those changes don't make sexuality less important. They often make it more intentional, more personal, and more integrated into the whole of who they are. Even in the absence of a partner, sexuality remains present. Masturbation, imagination, memory, and sensory awareness are all ways that sexuality continues to live in someone's life. These expressions don't require an audience or external approval. They are personal and powerful. For some people, aging brings about a renaissance of sexual awareness. Less pressure, fewer comparisons, and a greater capacity for self-acceptance. That freedom can unlock new experiences and understandings of what it means to be sexual. Cultural representation has a role to play here as well. Media rarely shows older people as sexual beings. They are cast as caregivers, grandparents, or wise mentors, but rarely as individuals with romantic or erotic lives. That absence sends a message that sexuality belongs to the young and fades with age. It's a message that needs to be challenged and dismantled. Visibility matters. When older people talk openly about their experiences, desires, and bodies, it challenges stereotypes and opens space for others to feel less alone. It also makes it clear that sexuality is not a trend or a memory. It is a living, breathing part of the self that continues to grow, shift, and thrive across a lifetime.